Resolution 54, sponsored by Senator Cassie Chambers Armstrong. Senator Few.
I'm Libby Settles, and I'm the state director for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in Kentucky.
I'm Bill Shorey. I was one of the... Now we got the button. I was one of the founders of Imagination Library of Louisville, and also serve on the advisory board for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library of Kentucky.
Good morning. I'm Lindsay Westerfield. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library of Kentucky. I'm a former library director in Russell County, Kentucky, and my most important job is being the mother of a 3-year-old girl who has received 40 of her 60 Dolly books before she turns 5.
May I proceed, Mr. Chair? Thank you. I just have a few words of introduction, but I wanted to say I've been working 9 to 5 with Imagination Library to think of ways that we can expand this program so that every Kentucky kid has access to it. And the options we've come up with are as varied as a coat of many colors. And they include things like automatically enrolling our kids in foster care, collaborating with our WIC program around enrollment opportunities, and studying how people can enroll as part of the birth certificate process like other states have taken steps to do. So this resolution would direct and organize this work, requiring the Cabinet, Department of Libraries and Archives, and Imagination Library to work together and bring us ideas. So I hope Joe lean into this idea with me and support this important program. Before I turn it over, I would be remiss if I didn't thank President Stivers and Congressman McGarvey for their work in bringing Imagination Library to Kentucky. This has always been a bipartisan program, supported greatly by this General Assembly, and I just wanted to say to President Stivers and Congressman McGarvey, Kentucky families will always love you for your work with DPIL. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bill Shorey.
Thank you very much, Senator. You're going to hear, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. You're going to hear from the other folks seated here some terrific data about the impact that Imagination Library is having across Kentucky and ways we can increase that impact. What I'm here to talk about is the impact, is to tell you a story. And the story that I know best is the impact that Imagination Library had on my own family. Our daughter Isabella was born in 2009 in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, I assume pretty much everybody here has been to East Tennessee at some time, and you know that it's really famous for 3 things: the Smoky Mountains, saltwater taffy, and Dolly Parton. And so it wasn't much of a surprise when shortly after my daughter was born, a hospital staffer came into the room and said, "We need to get y'all signed up for those Dolly books." Now, as a journalist, I had covered Tennessee, becoming the first state to take the program statewide, so I certainly knew about it. But without that first contact in that hospital room, it might have remained one of those things I would get around to eventually. Instead, we took our first book home right there and got one every month in the mail thereafter. And by the time Isabella was 9 months old, books had become the most exciting thing in the world for her. By the time she could walk, she learned that books showed up in the mailbox, and they were just for her. Classic books like The Little Engine That Could, Corduroy, and Where the Wild Things Are arrived from Dolly, and they began her lifelong love affair with reading. In 2013, we moved to Louisville when I got a job as news director at Wave TV, but we were crushed when we learned that Imagination Library hadn't made it to Louisville yet, and in fact, hadn't made it to most of Kentucky. So the folks in Knoxville were nice enough to keep her on the rolls until she turned 5. So she did finish the program, but we were still pretty sad that other kids didn't have this opportunity. So my wife, who is never one to be deterred, said, "Well, you've got a television station. Why don't you do something about it?" So we joined up with some of the Wave team, and with a little research and help from the Junior League, we learned how we could bring Imagination Library to Louisville. My goal had been to get the program up and running across all of Jefferson County before Isabella turned 5 and graduated. But by the time the state funding made that possible, Isabella was there at the news conference shooting video, and she was about to enter high school. But the love for reading that Imagination Library instilled in her has never faded, and it's led her on an incredible journey. Today, Isabella is a junior at DuPont Manual High School, and I never have a microphone without taking the opportunity to brag on her a little bit. She has perfect scores on both the ACT and PSAT, a GPA well over 4.0. Last night, she delivered and served dinner to the families at Ronald McDonald House. And the reason she can't be here today to testify herself is that she's interviewing for the editor-in-chief position at her school publication today. Most importantly for today's discussion, she now serves alongside me on the advisory board for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library of Kentucky as the youth representative, doing her best to make sure other kids have the chance to experience this program like she did. I recognize that Isabella has been fortunate to have quite a few privileges in life, and not every child has access to the same opportunities. But the Imagination Library is an important one that we can easily give to every child at an incredibly low cost. All we have to do is make sure as many as possible take part. I'm wholeheartedly in support of SJR 54 and exploring new ways to expand participation in Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. That visit in the hospital 17 years ago launched my family on this journey. Let's find ways to give other families the same chance. And now I will turn it over to Lindsay.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Senator. And thank you to this committee for your time this morning. Like I said, my daughter is 3, and she has been a participant of Imagination Library since the day she was born. Like most 3-year-olds, she'd rather be playing or dancing or make-believing. But on the day that her book arrives in her mailbox, she races outside. She holds her book with such pride, and she becomes entranced in a world of pictures and thoughts and feelings that we haven't experienced before. We want to drive home the idea that mailboxes are where dreams can come true. Reading our Dolly books together, they have become some of the most foundational early literacy building blocks and family building blocks of her life. And the presence of these books that are delivered directly to the home in this special way, those are to thank for a children's early interest and early ability in reading. The impact on cognitive development and future academic success has been proven over and over. Exposure to print books in the home with a caregiver is critical during those first 5 years of life when 90% of brain development occurs. And like my own daughter, children who create positive attitudes toward reading, they build early confidence and fluency, and that's a really vital pre-kindergarten ingredient. In fact, according to new groundbreaking international studies on the Imagination Library specifically, children in the U.S. were 9 times more likely to initiate shared book reading compared to children who are not in the program. So the Imagination Library works because books are arriving directly into a child's home and building a child's home library with no cost to the recipient. To make the kind of impacts that Kentucky needs to see for tomorrow's generation to be economic and intellectual contributors to our society, we've got to be building strong readers today, and as many of them as possible. In my local program in Russell County, 93% of all children under the age of 5 are enrolled in Imagination Library. And with that level of saturation, we expect to see major gains in reading scores, which translates to graduation, which translates to employment and success in life. So ultimately, early literacy, as you all know and believe in, is not optional. It is absolutely foundational to thousands of Kentucky children, mine included. So, Livy?
Good morning, and I'd like to also thank Senator Cassie Armstrong for creating this resolution to provide what we think is authority to align resources with the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. KDLA is our current partner, and they have fostered such natural collaborative engagement across the Commonwealth, closing literacy gaps. We are full state coverage. We're very proud of that. 52% of eligible children between the ages of birth and 5 are currently enrolled in Imagination Library. And I have to say, I am incredibly proud of our state of Kentucky. you all really shine and have devoted resources to creating early literacy opportunities for so many children, and we want to continue to serve more children. So with this resolution, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services and KDLA, we can expand enrollment opportunities with WIC, provide books for children in foster care, and maintain that connection during address changes. Plus, we'll outline discovery for birth certificate enrollment. We can provide greater outreach to health departments and the HANDS program. And we have several hospitals across Kentucky registering children at birth. But how can we expand newborn enrollment? Two projects that I really wanted to highlight as achievements are that we have partnered with the Kentucky Department of Corrections in December of 2024. We had an extraordinary meeting, had lunch in a tiny community, and tried to figure out a way that we could combine books for children with families who are struggling over family visitations. Literacy is such an issue for people who are incarcerated. We recognize that low literacy creates the opportunity in school to not succeed as well as other people who have had accessibility to books. So now we have soft reading spaces in all prisons across Kentucky. So when children come to visit their parents, there's an opportunity to pull a Dolly book off of a bookshelf, sit on a carpeted area, sit at a table, use crayons, talk about books. And the other thing that's so cool to me is that many people who are currently in prison are practicing their reading with Dolly Parton Imagination Library books to prep for those visits with their children. We also are one of the first states to incorporate a full library of bilingual books. So we have books in both English and Spanish. And we also in Kentucky provide books for children with a Braille overlay. And that is an incredible program called Braille Tales. And they are located in Louisville. We went to visit them, and the women in prison are actually laying those plastic reading Braille textures over books at Imagination Library. And they go out to all states in the United States, as well as Puerto Rico, which is pretty cool, I think. So one of my goals, and Lindsay as well, and Bill, the fact that we serve 52% of eligible children, we really would like to see that grow to 65% and higher. I don't know why we can't do it. The hurdles for us continues to be just reaching children at newborn age. We want them to have a library of 60 books so they can be ready for kindergarten, roll into that classroom, have great self-esteem, and have language awareness, phonics. They also have in books the opportunity to solve problems, learn about emotions, and we think that that is going to create indelible impact for pre-K readiness. We reach every holler, every side of urban cities with your help, and we'd just like to say thank you so much for creating an interest in early literacy. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the Imagination Library and achievements that we have reached in Kentucky. And don't be shy. Someone has to have, or any thoughts or comments you have.
We do have a couple questions. Vice Chair Mays Bledsoe.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you all for your presentation. I'm a big fan of the Imagination Library. My kids are too old to actually participate, but when we put it in the budget a couple years ago, the conversation was strongly about making sure it was fully funded for the whole state, which was a big deal. One of the questions that I've had is the local match. You know, that is sometimes a challenge for some communities. I know even in Fayette, there was a kind of a plea this summer of, hey, we're short of doing that. Do you have any recommendations on what other states have done or other communities that were very successful in raising the private partnership?
Yes, and actually, Lindsay and I are working very closely. We have rolled out a system that we can focus on sustainability for local programs expansion, and particularly, I'm glad you mentioned Fayette County. They grew incredibly fast. We meet with every partner when they start the program and do a 5-year cost estimator to determine what type of financial sustainability a program needs to have. Fayette County was 33% faster in growth than we could have anticipated. And that, unfortunately, hit hard for them with the money that they had in reserves for Imagination Library. So we are working really closely with all partners to work on diversifying their funding. Multiple grants. We have family foundations across the Commonwealth that are paying for a portion of books to help sustain their local program partners' expansion. And we also will be rolling out ideas for fundraisers. There's some great fundraisers like Spelling Bees, Dolly Parton Gala, sing-alongs. So we're really hoping to be very creative to support local programs to reach their financial goals and sustainability. Such a good question. Thank you so much.
Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Yeah, thank you. So I had a kiddo born in 2010. So she was linked in
sweet.
fairly quickly. We live in Campbell County, and Campbell County did a great job of making that available to us. And so love that. I have seen a number of fundraisers around the area. So much like Chair Mays Bledsoe, that was kind of my question too, around how are the local matches achieved. That was one thing. But the other thing that I tend to see in Campbell, Pendleton, Bracken, in the areas that I represent, is quite a bit of movement. So we might see a young person that is born in Campbell, but maybe they live in Kenton or Boone within the next year or two. How do we handle that?
That is such a great question. Do you want to answer that?
I'd be happy to. As a former local program partner in Russell County, we handle that through a terrific book order system where we're connected with the National Change of Address Registry through the United States Postal Service. So when a book maybe arrives at a mailbox and there is a forwarding address that's been listed with the Postal Service, that will flag in the system. And so there's excellent communication between the local program partners throughout the state. So someone in Russell County who maybe a child has moved next door to Casey County, we can call Casey County and say, you'll be expecting a change of address soon. And Casey County can log in and they can see they need to shift that child from one county to the other. So it's a very seamless process for that. And just again, I can't underscore the importance of that local match as a program partner in Russell County, where dollars are always being shared and need to be stretched as much as possible. The legislative match was a game changer for Russell County. I can't truly express enough the appreciation for that, because that fuels excitement in those local fundraisers to say, oh, this is something that our state cares about. We care about this too. We're in this together. We're growing this program together. So for that funding, truly, thank you for that. As a local program partner, it makes the difference.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, just jump in. While we're talking about kids that move around a lot, I'd be remiss if I didn't share a statistic about our kids in foster care. It's my understanding that we have 2,200 children in foster care who are eligible to enroll in Dolly Parton Imagination Library and who are not enrolled in Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And so my hope, should this resolution pass, is that the first thing we do is figure out how we can protect those children's confidentiality through the cabinet, but get those 2,000 children enrolled to start getting those books, because I think those are kids that would in particular benefit from this program.
Senator Webb.
Thank you. I want to thank the sponsor for bringing this. I go back to 2019 when many of us were at NCSL in Nashville, and Dolly Parton actually came to speak to about 4,000 lawmakers at that time that we were all in the room. There were a lot of excited people there to see her, and she told the story of her father's illiteracy and how that inspired her. So to hear the partnership with the libraries, we appreciate so much, and then corrections. I think that is just an extension that is a natural one, but it's going to be very beneficial for reintegration of those inmates and the educational aspect of those children as well, and the learning together or whatever. Because I had a lot of clients that really graduated from high school or got their GED, and they read at a 6th grade level. So I mean, it's you're doing both, and I appreciate that. But I just feel like illiteracy is still there, still a problem, and this is a way to bridge the gap. And appreciate you bringing the resolution.
Okay, do we have any other questions? I do want to say something. There is a adult friend of mine from Easter Seals. His name is Eddie, and Eddie is an adult with special needs. And where most people greet you by saying, hello, good morning, how are you? Eddie greets you by saying, Dolly. So he and I dolly back and forth several times during the day when I was at Easter Seals. So if Eddie is watching this morning, Dolly. Sorry, I had to do
Dolly.
that.
We all need to say that. Dolly.
He loves Dolly, and so that's normally the subject of conversation. Any other? We do have a motion on the bill. First, we have a motion for an oral amendment to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make an oral amendment to remove the word is on line 19 on page 2.
To have a second? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Amendment is approved, and we have a motion on the bill itself. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Secretary, please call the roll. The bill as amended. I'm sorry.
Senator Deneen. Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Girdler. Senator Herron.
Yes, and I'd like to explain my yes vote. Thank you for bringing this resolution. I had an opportunity to speak to the folks in Louisville with the Imagination Library over the weekend, and I'm just super impressed by the work that is happening and really the cost. I think that when you look at it and you break down the cost of 60 books over those 5 years, it's like $1 and less than $1.50. And so I think that when we're talking about what can we do to continue to improve our Commonwealth, this is one of those things. And so thank you, Senator, for bringing this forward.
I'm sorry. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Aye. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my aye vote, please.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Senator Armstrong, let me begin by saying I remember when your predecessor, now Congressman McGarvey, brought this to the Senate back in 2020. It was a COVID year. And he was so excited and enthused about bringing this. And I remember how hard he worked to make this reality in Kentucky. And I'm so pleased to see that you're carrying that torch still in Jefferson 19 to continue to make this a reality and such importance to all children. I have my granddaughter here with me today. She's shadowing me. And I think it's really significant that the first legislative act that she sees today, shadowing her grandfather, is that this state is emphasizing reading at birth. You know, I'm a strong believer that education begins at birth. I said that yesterday on the radio in Lexington. I remember my wife and her grandmother started reading to her father when he was just born. And he and his wife have continued that with her. And it's just so important that we start emphasizing literacy and reading. And that's what helps children become kindergarten ready, which I know is important to you, Mr. Chair, with Senate Bill 191. So thank you, Senator Chambers Armstrong. I think, again, it's important for my granddaughter to understand how reading, again, begins at birth, and it's so important for all children in the state, and to see her state take action to continue the Dolly Parton Library for all children in Kentucky. I vote aye.
Senator Webb, Senator Williams, Chairman Carroll.
Aye. On a vote of 10-0, the resolution passes with favorable expression that same should pass on the Senate floor. Also need to make a motion to roll the amendment into the committee sub. Okay, have a second. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Do we have any other business before the committee? Thank you all so much for this. This is a great program, and I too have a 5-month-old granddaughter, and I believe she is signed up for that. And every chance I get to hold her, there is a book near, and we're looking at pictures and talking about it. And she doesn't know yet, but she's going to like that probably in a few weeks. But thank you for everything that you do, and just a great program, and I hope we can move this through quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other business for the committee?
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your support.
Thank you all, ladies. We stand adjourned.